This film was by far one of the greatest visual storytelling, genre blending masterpieces that I have ever watched for a lot of reasons, right? And again, this is a no spoilers review. It's more so about what you can do before you watch the film that I think can actually enhance the film's experience. Because typically, what's going to happen is there's a lot of concepts and ideas that's introduced in the film that people later on are probably going to study and watch, and then they're going to have to go rewatch to catch certain things. But here's the thing: before you go watch the film, I would suggest that you study hoodoo. Hoodoo was the ancient spiritual practice, right, of the slaves in North America. Before they had Christianity, a lot of them practiced hoodoo. In hoodoo, there was a lot of different things that they would utilize, right? Hoodoo is what later on will be called voodoo, which is more so a demonization of the spiritual practices. It was conjuring, invocation of ancestors. It was counterclockwise dances, right? While music, evoking spirits. It was, the utilization of gopher dust and certain bags that had remedies in them to protect you against spirits. It There's so many stories that come out of this, and I'm going to do a deeper dive in this. But there was stories of certain hoodoo practitioners that were so powerful that they even made their slave masters essentially work for them, right? That these are real stories that were documented during the times during slavery, that a lot of people who end up becoming free start documenting their practices as they traveled and as they were seeing hoodoo. And so when you watch the movie, you're going to see a genre bending film that is not really a horror film, right? I don't know what you call this film. This film is what I like to call in practice strategic imagination, right? The storytelling that evokes different archetypes and ancestral memories, and that practices, narrative warfare, if you will, that I think leaves you with a spellbinding idea and immersion in your head. It immerses you into a world immediately when you get into this film. And you have patience in the film to not be so ready to see the vampires pop out. And I think the vampires even represent a certain symbolism as well, of how we see the world around us. So I'm not going to give any spoilers to it at all, but I did do a Substack on it about the things that you should study before going to watch. And I think what this is going to do for a lot of people is get them going down the rabbit hole of like what hoodoo was, sharecropping, the Jim Crow era. You understand me? Some of the relationships that the slaves had coming from the South going to Chicago, the power of music and its thread that it weaves from, I would say, our early days where even drum circles were banned because they were so powerful and they were like war drums, and the connection that this actually have with Congo. You understand me? And a lot of those practices come from the Congo because during the civil war in the Congo in the early 1500s, the whites had made deals utilizing the war that to get them to sell some of the captured soldiers from the other side. But they didn't realize that a lot of those Congo warriors came with their own ideas of warfare and spiritual practice. And then that's when you get them taking down some of their slave masters and starting some of these maroon villages in America. And then that's when you get later on some of the Geechee, and you realize that there were free people that existed during that time as well. And so I think that every symbolism in the movie is a representation of ideas and stories untold, right? And black magic and the relationship between hoodoo and the black church, and music and the evocation of how we utilize it as in a way that allows you to go deeper and deeper in it. And after people have more time to watch the film, I will give my review. But I think what he's done with this movie is he's created, like Spike Lee said, a new genre, right? Something original, something fresh, especially in a world of AI where everything is copied. the fact that he used millimeter film, and he wanted to make sure it was a experience that people could appreciate. I think this is gonna solidify him as like the GOAT of our generation right now. Between him and like Jordan Peele, then you have Samuel James, then you got Spike Lee. These are people who utilize the concept of strategic imagination and systematic consciousness inside of their film and storytelling to immerse us in a world that projects us not only of retelling our stories in the past in a powerful way, but also pushing us into the future to remind us, right, of our power. And I think that everything that they're doing, you know, we don't realize that this is a revolution. This is activism. You understand me? This is some of the most powerful things that we can do. Media is the most powerful things that we can do. You feel me? Media is the most powerful things, the storytelling, because we have to realize that when we have amnesia of our past, then we can't predict our future. And so we've forgotten so many ways. We forgot why music has been such a powerful tool to express ourselves. We've forgotten the hidden warfare that we used against the slave masters and how that has turned into warfare against ourselves, right? And once we take back the understanding, then we can utilize these tools in an intentional way. And we have to understand the complexity that goes into media, language, music, right? All of these things. And if we're not intentional about it, then we're producing chaos because we're going for capitalism with our consciousness. And I think that these brothers have to be seen in a different light for what they're doing to the mind of the people. Like when you go look at what's the movie Jordan Peele did? The famous one. Get Out. Get Out was this to me is Ryan Coogler's Get Out, but in a completely different way, because Get Out wasn't just a history. It was psychologically thrilling. It was horror. It was historical. It was musical. You feel me? Like, and I think one of the greatest things about this film, not only how it was shot, but the soundtrack, the score of the film is magnificent. And it's one of those films that each person will get something different out of it, depending on your level of interpretation and consciousness and symbolism that you grew up with, or the history that you know and the knowledge that you have. So for some people, it can be pure entertainment as a film that you watch, right? That is a fluid time period piece, right? But at the same time, just watching it purely as an original horror genre, thriller, suspense, you feel me? I think you can enjoy it just purely from entertainment. And I think that's when you make the best films. That when they have deeply decoded, meaningful messages, kind of like Kendrick Lamar's music, but then they also just have the pure escapism, entertainment aspect to where you can just be watching it and enjoying it and be enthralled into this world. That's when you make a true masterpiece. Something that can speak to the masses, right? But something that can also invoke conscious thought into those who are aware. It's masterful, and I think that everybody should watch it. You know, it has representation of the mulatto, the maroon, the Geechee, the Choctaw Indians. You understand me? Sharecropping, Jim Crow, prohibition, you know, the gangster era, the music, the hoodoo, the so many different things, like the Lake Lanier, the water symbolism of purification. You feel me? There's so many layers and layers and layers that this is going to give us a great opportunity to make content around each of these symbolisms, and it's probably going to produce a interest and African spirituality and I would say American history. So yeah, watch the film, pay attention, enjoy it, you feel me, and have conversations around it. Ryan Coogler, being from Oakland, man, he is somebody who has a complex consciousness that understands how to utilize the power of strategic imagination. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, masterful masterpiece. You feel me? Listen, it was great. It was everything that people said it was going to be. And it's this one particular scene that I liken to the Matrix moment. You know, in Matrix, when we first watched the Matrix and they turned the cameras and did slow motion, when you seen Trinity jump in the air, there's this scene in the movie that is so deep immersion, so soulful, so ritual, it's spellbinding. Like it takes you into the film, and it has so many symbols in it. You have to watch the film twice, maybe three times, just to appreciate this one scene. It's probably the most powerful scene that I've seen in black cinema ever. And that's a lot to say. But it brings so many ancestors, so many rituals, so many practices, so much history, so many timelines into one. Is literally the most powerful scene that I've seen ever in black cinema, and maybe ever in a movie. It's this one scene that you gonna be like, oh, it's crazy. You almost feel like you on a psychedelic experience. And I am not putting a 10 on 2. It was powerful. It was amazing. Go watch it, enjoy it, appreciate it, understand the art of it, have conversations around it. You understand me? But yes, Ryan Coogler did what he was supposed to do with this film. Congratulations, my brother. Him and Michael B. Jordan are having the Spike Lee, Denzel Washington run of our generation, and what they're doing is magnificent. And I hope that they also produce the Mali Empire in film and do the Mansa Musa movie. I love it. You know what I'm saying? Magnificent. You feel me? Like sometimes we are starved from, I would say, strategic imagination and our movies. So this is why, like, I watch a lot of shows and films. I'm a movie buff. I really am. I love it. I love thrillers, and I barely see myself in movies unless I'm like provoking an archetype of a character. So when I can see myself in film, when my DNA is activated by watching a film, you have to think about how powerful that is to other races that get to see this all the time. We barely get to see it. They get to see it all the time. We barely get to see it. So we know when we're watching it. You feel me? And it feels like a special moment, and it should be the norm, but it's not yet. So we have to normalize films like that evoke that consciousness in us. You feel me? That project us in the future and retell our stories of the past from our narratives. You feel me? That's why it's so powerful, because Black Panther, the story of Fruitvale Station, watching Creed, like his movies evoke archetypes that empower us. And you can see a clear difference of watching yes, Tyler Perry may be one of the most successful filmmakers and our era, capitalist standpoint, as far as like creating jobs. But as far as strategic imagination, nah, it does nothing for us in the empowerment in our psyche. He doesn't have that intentionality, and you realize, how much that's missing. So yeah, Fruitvale Station was a hard movie to watch because it shows the real grim reality, and it evokes so much emotion, and that's what really put him on the map as a storyteller. But it's also a necessary film to understand the dynamics and to see us as human beings and to see our culture as human and to stop having it degraded and demonized as dark so that it validates what other people do to us. You understand me? So shout out to Ryan Coogler. I give this film 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 stars. This is truly an amazing film. It's a classic film for our era, for our generation, and I hope that it inspires the future of filmmakers to continue to make films like this as well. Peace to the family.